Eh, now we're recording. Okay. All right. I am a tech guy, believe it or not. I actually ran an IT department, so um, but I haven't actually done
But
this. So
Flash, you were
what's that?
starting to tell us that when you were starting to tell us when you started.
All right. Well, I started. I got out of music. I left music. I had always intended to be a musician my whole life, and I left music. My band had broke up. I was feeling down about it. I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I pushed it away. And my mother, knowing I had to have something to do because I'm a very creative type of person, bought me Dungeons and Dragons for my birthday. Now, this was in 1977. And it was November of 1977, because that's when my birthday is. She bought that. I was 21 years old. And I loved. She bought me Dungeons and Dragons. It was the basic version because that's all that was out at the time. Um, so I got that. I looked around for someone to do something, and I actually, my girlfriend at the time, an ex groupie, uh, said, I know this guy. I buy weed from him, but he runs a D&D game all the time. He's like he doesn't work. He's got money. He comes in, and so he just runs a game 24/7, basically. So I went over there one day, and I got into the game, made up a character, went into the game, and when I ended, I said, "Thank you very much. I know what I want to do, and that is not to be a player, but it was to be a GM. I wanted to do what he was doing. That was what was interesting to me. So my first my first RPG I ever bought was that same month. I went to the game store where I used to buy my war games because I used to like war games, and all kinds of games. And so I said, "What do you have for RPGs?" So he showed me the selection, and I picked up Traveler. I bought Traveler and fell in love with it. I mean, I never fell in love with D&D. It was okay. It was okay, but it was never my game. But Traveler was my game. But I never ever have run it. I've never had a group that wanted to run it. So I've played it. I've never run it. Anyway, so that's how I started. That's what got me into it. I had a lot of time. I wanted to be creative, and that's how it happened.
So, can
Right.
you pick this out of a lineup? And if
That's
you
it.
started in 1977, it's
That was it.
actually probably this printing.
Yep.
And just to double
The
check,
blue. It was the blue cover.
did it come with the properly colored dice?
Yes, it did.
And of course, it had the rule book. But the final test is, did it come with this and
I
not
still
B2?
have that. I still have that.
Then yeah, you got.
Right.
I
In
think this is
1977, it came with the geomorphs
nope,
and the
Yes.
nope.
monster and
That was the previous version.
Okay.
This was the previous version. That was third printing. This is fourth printing.
Okay. So it was
So
that printing
late in
then.
1977. When was your
Yep.
birthday?
November. So very late.
My birthday's November.
Yeah.
So it was late in 1977. You would have gotten this, not the geomorphs.
Yep. It looks
You know
right.
how
very
I know
Yeah.
familiar.
that?
So,
Because
so I
because of those collector nerds over on Arcanum. So when I
so I
got
started in October of 1977. My best friend got the basic set for his birthday, and his basic set had the geomorphs and monster and treasure segment.
So that he probably gotten it earlier in the year. That would make
I
sense.
I I thought B1 didn't come out until 78 or even 79.
no, it was a 77 module, but
Mm.
I don't even have to ask AI. I know where the website where all that stuff.
I know Traveler came out that year too, earlier that
Yeah,
year.
February was 77. Yeah, so I guess I got started a few weeks before you, Clash.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
No, it says here that it was printed in November of '78. I might be misremembering.
Oh, then it probably was the Geomorph one. I have that other one because I bought another set. So,
But those early sets did come with the colored dice. And
yeah.
a little later they ran out of, like, they couldn't get the dice, enough of the dice, so they started coming with the kits.
Yeah, I know. My friends were envying me because I had the dice and they had the chits.
I had the dice that were really soft plastic. They came with mine, and you would
Yeah, that's what
after
the
a while,
original dice were. They
were green,
after about a
right?
year,
They
after
wore
a
the
year of
corners.
play, the 20 wouldn't stop rolling.
Exactly. Just kept rolling forever.
Oh
They'll
yeah.
bump into something.
But of
Which
course
why
you had that friend whose low impact dice rolled weird in just a way that he always rolled a nat 20 more often than not.
Well, I started New Year's Eve, no, Halloween night at a meeting of a science fiction club in New Haven. And this guy who was a medievalist at Yale wanted to run his Dungeons and Dragons game after the meeting. And 7 of us sat down. He ran a game. He told us what to do. I had never seen the rules. When I finally got the rules, he wasn't using any of them. He was running a much better game than you could have done with the rules. So I learned to trust the game master and just play whatever they were playing. But we did buy the rules in a little hobby shop on Chapel Street. We got these pamphlets that didn't tell you how you could figure out whether you hit somebody and were very incomplete. And my friend Simon and I got together at the Bridge Club after the game every night trying to figure out how to play this game. And we'd each run 3 characters and the other guy would GM. And I had my ideas of how it worked. And when I finally got all the rules, I liked my ideas better and I never used theirs.
There you go.
And
Were you
I
using the 3 brown booklets?
Yeah. And I never had fewer than 15 people wanting to play. So I figured my game was D&D, it just was different. And one of my first players said, "Bill, you're not running D&D. I like it better, but you really shouldn't call it D&D." So I stopped calling it D&D. I changed the charge in, and I changed the magic, which were the only things I kept from original D&D, and I ran my game. But I played in Simon's game, and he liked rules as written, and he would run my game rules as written, and he'd run D&D rules as written, but he would always run rules as written. He wasn't afraid to make rulings, but he liked having the rules set.
I stuck with rules as written, or tried to, as much as AD&D allowed. Only because I'm hard of hearing, which is, I have nerve damage, so it's there's a bit of a neural, brain aspect to it where it's sometimes hard for me to parse speech, and it was worse when I was little, when I was a teenager. So by sticking to rules as written, by using miniatures, dry erase, or actually plexiglass, we didn't have plexiglass with dry erase. I was able to actually run games because if I didn't hear somebody, I knew I was using the rules as written. I just had to remember the rule and didn't have to really hear the rest of what they said, which I often miss.
Well, I should have
But,
nerve. I should have nerve damage because a bass player in a band called Dragon Variation, which we named we named that after a chess opening. None of us were fantasy readers at the time. and we were loud.
Yeah, I still remember my first dungeon adventure. It was B1. No, it was the Port Town dungeon in the Blue Book. And a friend and I, of course, we diced who was going to be the first game master. He won. I made a magic user with a magic missile, and I was really all excited about it. Went down those stairs. Still remember that room, that initial room, with the 4 corridors branching off. I headed right. That led into the crypt with the skeleton. I see the skeletons emerge. Oh, I got you. Shot my magic missile. Didn't go down. Oh shit, I got one spell. So I try to whack it with my staff, missed, and I wargame. We were wargaming together, me and my friend and I,
Yeah.
about a year before we got it. We got the Holmes book, and then I realized that my odds of hitting weren't good. And I realized, hey, I did my first bit of rules lawyering and said, hey, there's a parry rule. So I parried, which successfully fended off the skeleton, but I wasn't killing them. But if I choose to try to kill them, I only had 3 hit points. And finally, I just and died. My first adventure, but I was hooked. And I quickly realized the 2 years prior, I fell in love in Tolkien, and I really loved the Lord of the Rings appendices and all the timelines and world buildings, and I doodled my own maps and my own history, and I realized that Dungeons and Dragons was a way I could put that in practice and have it actually be useful. So I started DMing. I I was the guy who DM'd all the time, and they and so I never looked back in that regard. I mean, I played, but not often.
Yeah, same here. I almost always am running.
I only ran one
And
module.
I was initially actually kind of skeptical. I actually had seen the D&D box set with the 3 little brown books in a hobby store. I'm not sure if it was in the summer of 76 or the summer of 77, but it was definitely before my friend got the basic stuff. And I looked at it. I was looking for miniatures games, and despite talking about miniatures, it didn't really seem to be a miniatures game. So I got tracked instead. And then on I was still kind of skeptical, and I saw the rule book mention it talked about both the game a dungeon master and a referee, and so I said, well, I'll take hold of the rule book and I'll be the referee, and my friend was the dungeon master. And we noodled around for about an hour or so, and then we went to bed. Except I didn't go to bed. I stayed up all night, pulled my first all-nighter. No, actually, maybe my second all-nighter. My first one might have been reading Jaws a few years prior, but stayed up all night reading and rereading the rules, and finally in the morning I declared I was ready to run a campaign, run a dungeon, and I immediately started house ruling. I was like, it didn't make sense to me that all the weapons did the same damage. Because, I was used to, I don't know if you've seen tactics, but it goes into pretty gory detail of the weapons and strength and everything. And not having any much knowledge of medieval warfare and stuff, I know basis for how to assign damage. So I suggested, well, maybe we use the cost of the weapons. At which point somebody said, how much does a small boat or a wagon do? Being the most expensive things on in the basic book.
Well,
I forget whether we actually tried to do different damage or whether I just decided that well, that obviously didn't work, and just stuck with the D6 damage for
That's a typical
And we read,
PC. You know, they're weaponizing the wagon.
yeah. And
Now,
that first, I think we ran through 3 sets of characters because we'd run them up to 3rd level and got all the books covered, so we'd start new characters.
now, I'm
You
sure we
know,
heard all the stories about being teased for playing Dungeons and Dragons, but I first learned about Dragons for being teased, not because I didn't know about Dungeons and Dragons. I had this frenemy who was my former best friend in elementary school, but it was the summer of Star Wars. That much I remember. And I was walking home from downtown, and he lived near the area where I was walking, and we just intersected each other, and he was he went to me. It's like, "Hey, guess what?" In his sneering voice, and said, "What?" And I said, "I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons, and you're not." And he waved in my face what I now know to be the white box set, the 3 little brown booklets in the white box, and said, "I bet you don't even know what Dungeons and Dragons is." And I go, "Of course I do. I know what Dungeons and Dragons is." And I went back home, and I was bound and determined to figure out what Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this was pre-internet, so what do you do pre-internet? You go to your friends in your Boy Scout troop, and you ask them what the hell is Dungeons and Dragons, and sure enough, one of the older scouts knew what it was and let me look at his book during the camp out, and that's where I learned. So I guess since it was the summer of Star Wars, I didn't get the basic set. I got the basic set with B1, so I guess it was a year. It was November of '78 that I got my basic set, which makes sense because I didn't get the player's handbook definitely until the spring, until the winter, January, February of 1979 when it was first released.
Yeah, I was playing a uh, basic D&D campaign at the time when the actually it was the monster manual came out first, if I remember correctly,
Yeah, Monster
and
Manual is in 70.
and that came out, and so we integrated that into our game. And we were playing basic, but we were actually using the monsters from the monster manual, and we didn't really know what the hell we were doing, but it was fun anyway. We kept going.
Actually, you were not incorrect to do that because as the people over in Knights and Knaves like to point out, the monster manual is actually written more for OD&D than it is for AD&D.
Oh,
It is not.
okay.
Wasn't until the Fiend Folio and the Monster Manual too that we had a proper, in a technical sense, technically correct, the best kind of
Right.
correct, a AD&D Monster Manual.
I wasn't even interested in AD&D, so, but I was playing it in 2 different campaigns, and I didn't know that the monster manual was wrong for it. The first monster manual.
Right.
Hybrid. You could tell because they don't have armor class 10 in there. They go the lowest they go in the Monster Manual with armor class 9, and there's
Hmm.
several other. But the
Yeah,
Monster Manual is the
and
Monster
there's a
Manual,
couple.
and it's go to closet.
Yeah,
But it was very interesting. We took all of the first the monsters manual, then the player's handbook, and then the DMG finally came out. And then by that time we had smoothly integrated into AD&D.
So my group's problem was we didn't know that OD&D existed. So all we had
Okay.
was basic D&D, and we
Yep.
went up to 3rd level. So we quickly played it out, and we went back to wargaming for a year.
Uh-huh.
And then my one friend, the same friend who ran that dungeon I described earlier, we saw that the player's handbook was coming out, and it was 12 or $15. Pretty big fun.
Yeah.
So we split the cost. And again, we rolled dice, and I won that one. So I got to take the player's handbook home, and we were all excited because now we knew we were going to get stuff higher than 3rd level. So I go there, I read through it, and I went, Holy shit. No, it doesn't have the combat table. It's just character information. No combat table. My friend had a strict bed limit. No calls after 8 o'clock. I look at that clock. It was 7:55. So I called him. And I said, Stuart, what? We can't use this. What do you mean we can't use it? We paid $15 for it. It doesn't have the combat table. What do you mean? Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I know you have to get off the phone, but it doesn't have combat tables. And then that summer, because it came out early '79, that summer the DMG was going to be released. And I ordered it from the local hobby store, was known State Street Model. And every week, starting in late June, is it in? Is it in? And finally, I called them up. Is it in? Oh boy! And it's like, and I saw my dad was getting ready to leave. Dad, could you drive me to State Street Model so I can pick up this book? I said, well, I got this chore, so yeah, I can drive you down there, but then you have to come with me there. I said, sure, I'll be fine with that. And it's like, I'll be reading this book I got. I said, okay. My dad's a great guy, but he wasn't much of a book reader. So I went there, got it, and read it, and I was plastered, and he just stared at me as he runs his errand. It's like, okay, I guess he's happy.
My dad, I was
So
very
the
lucky
Player's
because
Handbook actually came out in did come out in '78 because I got it for Christmas of '78. And I did have the OCE printing of OD&D, and so I started running AD&D using Greyhawk for the Master table and OD&D for the combat charts, but then Player's Handbook and Instrument Manual. And then I think it was like in June, they did a preview of the DMG that in the Dragon and in White Dwarf that have the
Yeah, 3 issues before the one I bought. If I had that issue, it was like 35. The first one I got is 38.
Yeah, so we started using. So we finally have those, and then, but interesting thing, I sort of, and then summer of '79, one of the oldest kid in our group, I think he was actually a college student. He invited me to come to MIT's SummerCon and run my game. And I show up. I've only ever played for a handful of friends. And by the time I'm registered and gotten to the table that he assigned me, he'd recruited 16 players. So I was sitting there running for 16 players, college students, post-grad students, a few teenagers, and a couple of the guys came up to me afterwards and said, you did a great job. You should start coming on Saturdays. The Games Club meets, so this is where they meet on Saturdays, and so I started coming to the RT Game Club, and right after Gen Con, or right around the time of Gen Con, one of the gamers got a early copy of the DMG because he been a playtester. He was put in as a playtester or something, and so I figure I might have been one of the first people in Boston to use a ruling from the DMG. I was running a game, and a bunch of them are over there poring over the DMG. some question, and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, let's look it up in the DMG." And then I thought I
Great
had
thing
my,
ab- the great thing about
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
yeah, go
The
ahead.
great
Rob.
thing about the GMG that Gygax packed so much in it that 10 years after own it, we start reading the sections like, I don't remember reading that. Oh, wow. So,
Yeah, how many of us actually read it cover to cover, and how many just looked up rules as we needed?
I actually read it cover to cover because
Oh, okay.
that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say the whole advice on collars, I thought was for the birds from the beginning. Couldn't see the point. It seemed like a total way of bogging down the game compared to the round robin that I usually use from the
Mhm.
get-go.
Yeah.
And then 5 years ago, I ran a game store event and I had like 13 people show up, kind of like what you experienced. It's like, and I sat down for 5 minutes, tried to organize things like, then it was like a light bulb. Holy shit, this is what you have collars for. And I split this 6 people here and these 7 play. Pick a collar in front of you. You manage that side of the table. You manage that side of the table. And you two tell me what's going on. And it worked.
Yeah.
And everybody had fun.
Yeah.
But that's what I finally learned is when you have a humongous number of players, then you have collars.
The other place
actually,
the collar is
I was going
helpful
to say,
is. Oh yeah, go ahead.
okay, my when I first, by the time I met my wife, okay, she came in. She actually joined the game. At that point, I had 13 players in my game, and it was an AD&D first edition game at that point. Almost, it was just before we changed over to second edition, so it was pretty late. And she actually, I recruited her to be she's my girlfriend, and so I recruited her to be my co-GM because I had so many people I couldn't handle them, and I had to. So she would go off and she would take some of the players with her that were doing something, and I would take a bunch of players that were doing something, and then we come back and talk quick, exchange what happened, and then we go back out. It was so that's how we ran it for a couple of years until the attrition and a few people left, and it was down to something more manageable. 13 was just too many.
When I had 12, I ran for 7 one night a week, and for 7. Some people played both nights, but they played different characters in a different campaign. I ran 7 one night. I set a limit of 7 players a night. I wouldn't run for any more than that. And one summer, when a bunch of people at Yale didn't have their game master, I was running 3 7s a week, but there was some overlap. Some of the people were playing 2 nights, and my girlfriend at the time was playing 3 nights when she was talking to me, which wasn't always.
Yeah, another place what we found a collar helpful was play by post.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
what? Play by what?
Play by post games.
Okay.
So everybody's making suggestions, and the GM has no idea. And you can't see, when you're sitting around the table, or even live on video, you can tell when consensus is coming, but when everybody's just typing messages, you can't tell when consensus is. So it was helpful to have a caller say sort of figure out what the consensus is and tell the PM this is what we're doing. And also they could move things along if nobody was making a decision, we turn left or right, we wait a day and nobody's responded, the caller just says we're going right. And everybody's okay with that because they know the deal. If they wanted to go left, they needed to have spoken up promptly.
Here's a quick. Is any of you ever played this crazy RPG called oh God, what was the name? Crash Pandas. Crash Pandas. You're all a bunch of raccoons who are street racers in LA. And everybody, you can do different things. There's all kinds of little things you can do, like you can stick a hat on, you can pretend you're human, for instance. That you have props that you can use, and one of the things was that you could just to control the car. One of the raccoons was on the brake, one was on the gas, one would turn left, and one would turn right. And everybody played at the same time and revealed what they did by a die. There's 6 possible moves.
I bet that's crazy.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's just hilarious. And so so you would just run this. It was just a brilliantly funny game, though. It not very much role playing got done, but it was just hilariously funny. That just reminded me what you were talking about, having the callers decide.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Facet Star Trek and their Star Trek combat game. They had it set up where it was like a mini space simulator where each player gets this little layout within these chits. One would be the engineer, of course there'd be a captain, a helmsman, weapons science officer, and they all had to coordinate. Well, let's just say the first few sessions were rough. Really didn't know how to coordinate. So that even though it was more serious, because of course, back in the '80s, if you're a Star Trek fan, it was serious business.
Oh yeah.
And and but yeah, oh wow, that must be a fun RPG.
As long as you go in it with the attitude that it's just for fun, you're just going to have a great time and just laugh your ass off, because you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, the other crazy one for number of players. I first year of grad school. I picked up in 1985, starting in September of 1985. I picked up Fantasy Hero over the summer, and Friday night I bought it and we noodled around with it with my Cold Iron players. And then Saturday was going to be the first Games Club meeting of the year. And we'd had a stroke of brilliance and actually got an announcement into the first issue of the campus newspaper. And so, the first weekend of the term, there wasn't much going on. So we had standing room only in a large room. And people were announcing games, and I still had Fantasy Hero in my backpack. So he said, I'll run a Fantasy Hero campaign in a couple minutes. I'm going to go out onto out of the room and onto the balcony. This was in the student union. They had these on the second floor balcony. They had these nice comfy chairs with coffee tables. And by the time the campaign was fully going, I forget how many players. I regularly had more than 10 players showing up for a session. It might have been as many as 16 players. I think it was 16 players total.
I know this is audio only, but you mean this Fantasy Hero?
Yeah, the original.
Too bad this isn't video. I would be legendary. We could you're studying all the. Oh, I can pull that out of there. Yeah, this is my decisive break with AD&D. I was a big Champions fan the year prior to the release, which was '84, And so when I heard that they were making a fantasy RPG of this, I was on it, and I got it, and I said, "We're my next campaign in the Waterland is going to be fantasy hero," and the players liked it. Of course, then I promptly run into this problem: the Johnny One spell, who put all his points into one really powerful spell, and that spell was teleport everybody one hex over, but only organic matter is teleported. And what he did is anytime he ran up against opponents wearing armor,
Teleported them.
teleport.
Yeah.
So because it was only one hex, it was really low cost, he was able to make it an area of effect and just go whack.
God.
Yeah, I don't remember anything quite that abusive, but we had some challenges, and my fantasy hero campaign actually eventually got converted to AD&D.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we switched to GURPS. We found GURPS was the better way. Of
Yeah.
course,
I-
GURPS. My first GURPS suggestion came with an ultimatum. The guys were really tired of me trying out different systems on them. Said, "Look, Rob, this is the last time we'll play GURPS, and it doesn't work. We're going back to AD&D. Deal? All right." And so they're sitting there making the character. And my one friend who was not really keen on it, he gets his one plate. "Hey, Rob, what are quirks?" "Oh yeah, they're like up to five things you pick. You only get a point for it, but they represent things about your character. Like he always talks about the weather. Minor color stuff." Really? And he just loved that. That sealed the deal with him with GURPS, and we played that for the next 20 years. Not a single campaign, but it's our main system.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time I switched it, I was getting tired of how much effort it took to run a fantasy hero combat, and I actually tried cold down with them, but it didn't. I was like, well, if we're gonna spend this much energy effort on combat, I'm gonna run the. I would like to try running the game system that actually was my preference. It's sort of by accident that I was running a fantasy hero campaign, but that didn't fly. And so finally I said, okay, well, the way to simplify things is to go to AD&D. We converted everybody to AD&D, and the campaign ran under AD&D for another school year, or most of a school year, before things blew up. But
Bill,
and I had done some champions before them.
Bill, you had something to say before. I saw you try to say something, but this is the problem with this kind of setup: is that people get overridden, and I saw that. So, what were you going to say, Bill?
You're muted, Bill.
You're muted.
I was going to say that the quirks idea so appealed to us, even though we don't play GURPS. For months, or no, for years, on character creation, even though you didn't get anything for it, we had one mandatory and two optional quirks. Players would just announce them, and they'd be part of their role playing. We didn't do extensive backstories, but the quirks worked like that. And the only time I played GURPS, I was playing poker at Foxwoods, and we quit for the night, and this guy said, "Anybody want to come to my room and play GURPS?" He didn't even qualify what GURPS was. Well, I knew what GURPS was. It was a role-playing game. I said, "Hell yes." I mean, I've been up 24 hours making $1,100. Why not? Why not? We're not going to play this for money, but I like games that aren't for money sometimes. And three other people wanted to play, two of whom had played GURPS before. We spent the whole night making characters, and we played until 1 in the afternoon the next day, and then I caught the bus back to New Haven. But I liked GURPS okay, In fact, we went to a point build system in my game in the late 90s because C.J. Corella really liked GURPS and really liked the point build. We played point build for quite a while just because we liked it, because it was something from GURPS we liked. We gave it up. We now roll, but you could use it. It's officially part of the rules. You can play that. We just don't anymore. When CJ ran a game, we used point buy, but yeah, a lot of things from GURPS make sense to me. But
Yeah, you could
it's hard
say.
to get.
I know you viewers, your listeners can't see it, but yeah, I have a lot of GURPS. That whole shelf back there, about 3 feet,
CJ
about 4 feet of GURPS.
CJ probably wrote a bunch of it, but he plays Glory Road.
Wait a minute, you knew C.J. Corella?
Yeah, he was in his game.
Yeah,
I knew this.
Awesome. Yes, and
he
it's
was
a
playing.
she, right?
No,
A he?
Carlos. He.
Carlos.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was when I met him. He was a grad student or an undergrad. He was at Yale, and he was running games, and I was running games, and we started playing in each other's games, and we play tested a lot of the stuff he wrote for GURPS, a lot of the stuff he wrote for Palladium, and mostly when we started play testing, we would play test in Glory Road Roleplay, and then he'd do a final play test in in the system he was writing for, because that way he could sell it.
So the one time I played GURPS, as opposed to trying to a couple failed attempts to try and run it, played GURPS Super with Lloyd Blankenship.
Wow.
I didn't hear.
I mean,
that.
I know I'm a GURPS fan, but sounds like you guys had a baptism of fire with some of the heavy-duty GURPS headliners.
And
the only superhero.
I've never played GURPS with Steve Jackson. I did run Evil Stevie's pirate game for Steve Jackson at a Lego convention one time.
Wow.
Those are legendary.
Afterwards, the two of us went to In and Out and talked Evil Stevie's pirate game over burgers and shakes.
The superhero game I ever played, my late friend Charlie Whitley ran it, and he'd never been a game master, and he decided he would divide the players into two teams, bad superheroes and good superheroes, and we'd play superheroes.
Awesome.
Huh.
I kept finishing off the ones I got down. I was not going to play superhero convention where the bad guys survive and can get to keep doing things. I mean, how many civilians can you kill before I have to kill you? My character bitten by a radioactive flying squirrel and could glide, not fly, had a gyrojet rocket pistol, and was fairly strong for a normal man. So if I got someone down, I was killing. I was too weak to keep facing these guys. And one guy didn't like that, and we ended up doing something else.
Yeah, I was a big Champions fan in college, but never ran it much outside of that. And when I ran Champions in college, I had my own comic book universe, and I was a fan of New Mutants, not New Mutants, the New Universe, Marvel's New Universe. So I decided to campaign with the players get to play the first superheroes on the planet Earth in the 1980s. And the backstory, long story short, that the Earth was seeded with the mutagenic virus that gave everybody superpower. But the reason why the Earth was seeded is because this universe version of the Federation of Planets, a multi-species, was losing their war against their version of the Klingons, and they were retreating away from the sector that Earth was in. And one of the Federation scientists decided to give Earth a fighting chance before they were invaded in 20 years by seeding them with this mutagenic virus that gives people superpowers. So I ran that for 3 years in college, off and on. Not as often I read fantasy, but a session here and there. And then, sure enough, 20 years later, I'm running at a local game store slash comic book store, and we were looking for a campaign to do, and we were talking about champions because, of course, among other things, we're a comic book fan. Well, I ran this campaign in college, and it's 20 years later. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but this would be a really cool time, and I run a mean game. I said, sure, and everybody had fun. And so the climax of the campaign, of course, the alien invasion happened, and I had my youngest son was really, really big into bionicles. So I asked him, and he's 8 years old. I asked him very solemnly, Greg, can I use your bionicles? What do you mean, Dad? Well, I'm running this super. I do Dungeons and Dragons, right? Well, yeah, I'm doing a superhero version, and the aliens are invading the Earth with these giant robots, and you have like 24 of these guys, and I can use them all. Well, only if I get to come, you Dad. I got to make sure they're okay and they don't get beat up. Well, they'll get beat up in the imagination, but physically they'll be okay. All right. So So I set this whole moonscape up because the combat set was set on the moon, and this was also the heyday of HeroClick. So we had all the superhero miniatures we needed, and so I laid out all these giant robots, and for the first time, I was able to use the giant robot warrior supplement the hero system put up. Never used it, never had to use it, but now I had a use for it, and of course it's all compatible. So it was a hellacious fight, and the players have a hell of a time, and that ended the campaign with the players' victory, saving Earth from the huge alien invasion. So it wrapped up my comic book universe in a night type bow. So that's my story.
Cool. That is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, just having those bionicles really was the chef's kiss.
I wrote Starcluster for the first time sometime in the 90s. That was Starcluster version 0 that never got published. It was typewritten on a typewriter.
Huh.
And
God bless you. Me and typewriters are mortal enemy, even though I learned to type in junior high.
Did you
yeah,
write
it
it
was
by
all
torchlight?
No, it was
And you had to get to your office 1 mile through the snow.
Uphill both ways.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say walking uphill home from school is literally true, and in my home was a mile away, and for some reason my school didn't bus over a mile, or I was just at the limit, which would set at 1 mile.
Anyway, the thing is, I got this whole thing set up and it took a long time, if you can imagine typing that. I typed it all up, put it in a binder, and I said to my D&D group, how would you like to play this game I came up with? They said, sure, we'll try it. So I played the game. I thought it went really well. And then after the game, when the player said, so when are we getting back to the real role playing?
Oh, crush your hope. Obviously,
yes.
you didn't crush your hopes and dream because you're here.
Well,
and you have a catalog now.
I put it away, right? I put it away. I didn't even look at it for years. So my son grew up. He was in I think he was about 13, 15, something like that, a teenager, and he found it. And he brought it to his friends who we had been playing with. I was running a D&D game for them, and they came to me and said, "Can we play this?"
Cool.
And so that was it. From that point on, I've been playing almost continuously for all those years. My son's 38 now.
So you have 61 titles out now, right? They're
Something
all
like
written
that.
by you?
All of them are to some extent written by me. I do deal a lot with people. I like writing with other people. I
Okay.
like. My son is Claxon, so he's a frequent co-writer, and my one of my friends is Albert Bailey, and he writes a lot of them with me. He's a plasma physicist, um, and
Well,
uh,
that's great for your physics engine, isn't it?
he is he's fantastic, but he's a literal rocket scientist. He worked for Lockheed Martin, so
Oh, wow.
he's a great guy.
Yeah, I'm
And
not I'm even though I did build my own a simulation of a switch accurate simulation of Mercury simulator, I'm still an amateur. So kudos to being able to actually work with a rocket scientist.
yeah, he's one of the main people on the building the space laser, the one that they brought up in 747. That was him. So it's a very very strange relationship because he moved away to Texas and was working there for Lockheed Martin, and he would come up and he would just show up because I live near an Air Force base, and he'd just show up and say, "I can't tell you why I'm here, but I'm in the area." So, uh, but we've had a long
So
distance
your
thing.
first for your first release, were you able to take advantage of the internet and print on demand, or do you do it more traditionally?
No, I took it purely from the internet. I didn't even release a print on demand. Um, there, Starcluster version one. I actually at the very end of its run, I got a printing made it at Lulu. That was my first one, but before no one ever did it because I was changing it to Starcluster two. It was a different system, so
Okay.
Um, so Starcluster One had one book printed. That was mine. I still have it. Um, but Starcluster Two actually proved to be fairly popular. It was a gold seller at Drive Through. Actually, it was the one before that, the one that got absorbed into Drive Through. I don't even remember the name now. Um, I sold a decent amount of them back then. And I've just been continuing to update it, make new stuff for it because I love it. I'm having so much fun doing it. But since I came up with four back in I think 2017, that I don't think I'm ever going to change the system now to any great extent again. This is the fourth system, and I think that's it. I'm hitting my what I'm feeling happy with.
So you're, um, Frank, you're doing Cold Iron. You're going to plan to release Cold Iron sometime, what, next year?
Release what?
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'm gonna
Oh, him.
manage
Cold Iron.
to hard release something. I mean, it's effectively soft release. I mean, it's up there and it's available. But I've been working on trying to. So Cold Iron, I introduced to in college. An older guy, a couple of few years older than me, had written it and was running it. I didn't know much about it. I was playing with some of the folks that were running in his campaign and stuff, and a couple of them had their own campaigns. But then this one guy, Rob Henry, had taken some time off from college, and he was starting to come back, and a couple folks had gotten some stuff typed up, and he showed up one Saturday with this a 2-inch stack of handfold printer paper with all the spells for the game and lesser amounts of paper for skill charts and the combat reference sheets. And so he was going to start up a new campaign. And I think a few weeks before he started this, I started playing, gotten interested in champions, and we went out one day in the middle of a blizzard to try and find champions so I could run it. But Mark Christensen, who developed the game, didn't want anybody getting copies of this because he didn't type it up. So it probably had errors, and he didn't want people using it, having a printed rules for his campaign that maybe weren't correct. And, and the book says, that Rob said, well, he didn't say anything about, reading it. And he didn't say anything about making notes. So I sat there for a couple Saturdays and copying, writing by hand into a composition book, everything that was in those printouts. And then
Wow.
And then I started noodling around with it, and then that summer I picked up Harm and decided to run a campaign in Harm, and then finally a couple of years ago I kept asking him about publishing it, and he really wasn't interested. I finally got him to agree that I could publish a version of Cold Iron as long as I gave him credit. And so I'm sort of taking that permission as a CCBY license.
That is awesome. Wow. I mean, as long as you're comfortable with your project, take the time you need. Get it the way you want it. You know.
Keep
You know,
reading about it as if it were.
There's some
People
bits
have
I'm waiting
a
on you
pen.
to finish to get more of your logistic fantasy system out. So I can see your take on
I got a whole world to deal with. Well, not a whole world, thank God. Yeah, but the chunk I have, I know the listeners can't see this, but yeah, there's 4 maps here, and there's well, let's just say the work does. You increase the maps twice the size. It is indeed 4 times the work, and maybe a little bit more than that. So will be the max size of one single project I'll ever release, and I'll probably be focusing on smaller release. But the good news is the edits are done.
Fantastic.
Yay!
Congratulations.
I still got to do what I call text tagging because I use InDesign, and if I pre-tag them with the styles that I use, it makes the final layout come together quick. But I'm still waiting on art. So my last artist is being Pokey. So I still not sure if I'll make the end of November like I will. But
I thought Cold Iron was out. I read people's opinions of it on Reddit. How are they having opinions when you haven't published it?
Are they players?
People are
They
saying
seem
something
to.
about,
They're talking about the system. I don't know if anyone said they played it, but evidently they know enough about it to have an opinion.
I'll have to look for that, because every once in a while I Google for Cold Iron, and I don't see anything other than stuff that has nothing to do with what I know of as Cold Iron.
Okay, maybe I'm seeing stuff about it. Somebody may beat you to the name.
So
Well, a bunch of things are so Cold Iron isn't a great name, which is why I'm glad that Rob suggested when I was looking for a setting to start my current campaign in. Rob suggested that I might look at Blackmarsh, and I did, and then Rob is generously releasing a lot of his stuff, a lot of your stuff, Rob. You're releasing CCBY, and so what I'm publishing under, which is immediately makes a more distinctive name and also distinguishes what I'm publishing from Mark Christensen's original, is I'm publishing as Cold Iron Blackmarsh Adventures.
Can I tell you what I heard about what one person's opinion of something was, so you can tell me whether it was your game?
Sure.
Bill, I can shed some light on there. There was a Kickstarter 6 years ago called Cold Iron, a Fey Focus OSR Kickstarter.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what I heard about.
I tripped over that one, and that's when I knew I had to, and that makes sense. Cold Iron and Fey, that totally makes sense, and that was the real kicker. That I'm trying to publish just under the name Cold Iron isn't going to fly. Oh, great. Rob's generous. I can call it Cold Iron Blackmarsh Adventures. Tie it to the Blackmarsh and greater majestic fantasy setting. Now I've got a setting that I can go with. Bam! I've got something that can be distinctive. But my whole purpose of publishing is I'm not hoping to get any money out of it. I'm not hoping to get hundreds of people playing it. My main purpose is that it's got a bunch of unique features that in all the Googling and talking to people on different forums, nobody's ever said, oh, well, my buddy in college used the normal distribution. And so I want people to know that, hey, here's a way, we play with, Gygax started using 56 to get a bell curve. People play with various exploding dice. Well, here's a way that you can use a normal distribution in a game in a way that works and is practical.
And don't shoot me if I get this wrong. So you roll a normal D100, but if you roll above, say, a 95 or something, you get to roll another 0, and if you roll high there, you get it. And so you get a top range of very low percentage results. You just read it as a D.
So the way it works is you generate, and the cool thing is Mark had to write a program run on the mainframe to generate those charts. Now you can throw some stuff into Excel sheet or a Google sheet, and it'll spit out. There's a normdist function, and you tell it to do the cumulative distribution, and then you tell it the standard deviation, and it gives you so it's kind of the result that you're going to get that you use in the game is a modifier that's positive or negative, and it gives you the cumulative chance of getting at least as good as a particular modifier. And so you've got these percentages, or you've got these probabilities that are between 0 and 1. And so fundamentally what you do is, instead of rolling D100 that's going to be 1 to 100, what you're really rolling is you're rolling digits of a decimal number between 0 and 1. And so you can generate any probability between 0 and 1 with that method. And then the way to make it practical, instead of rolling, 100 dice all the time, you normally roll 2 dice, and it gets you most of the range. If you roll a 90 or higher, and you read them as 0 to 99, not 1 to 100. If you roll a 90 to 99, you roll additional digits so that you get at least 2 digits. So you get 2 digits past the leading string of 9. If you roll an 00 through 09, you roll additional digits so that you get 2 digits past the leading string of zeros. And so that gives you those tails, those long tails of the normal distribution.
Yeah, and it still looks like a regular chart, just has more entries, obviously, but you can just read the values and you roll the dice and just remember to roll the extra dice at the appropriate time, and it all shakes out. And most of the time, you're just worried about what the 2 dice says. So I think it's very elegant.
Yeah, it works really nicely. And, they went back in 1983 when I was introduced. The only game I was aware of that had exploding dice. I think some people informally did. If you roll a 20, you roll again an add or so. But Rollmaster had their exploding dice system. But what I didn't like, what kind of drove me bananas about that is you get this weird probability curve.
Yeah, because when you do a normal exploding dice, you add on top of what your previous result is, and the way you do it with yours, it's just like I said.
What he's doing with what Frank is doing with that is it's basically increasing resolution at the top and the bottom of your distribution.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you're increasing your resolution, so it's a finer resolution at that. So you have more numbers, but it's still the same number.
Yeah.
But it's just more decimal points of resolution. That's really elegant.
So your results are all falling, on the normal distribution, that ideal bell curve there. And what I've been finding, what I've realized is that nobody's ever reacted like, oh, I didn't expect that, I didn't expect that to happen. The probability, and I realized that in real life, we don't know it, but we're constantly interacting with stuff that lands on the normal distribution. And so we're used to, every once in a blue moon, something weird, and so it's using this totally natural distribution. Nobody, the closest I come is I recently saw somebody else take the same idea of rolling enough D10s to get enough resolution to if you roll 3D10, you could do a reasonable approximation of 3D6. You can cumulative distribution chart for 3D6, and if you do it to 3 digits, that gets you pretty close.
We used to call that batting average dice.
Yeah. But what this guy was doing, he wasn't looking at any open-ended stuff. It was just converting, XDY into a cumulative distribution of XDY. And
that sounds interesting. I read everything I could about that other Cold Iron game, and I have nothing to add to this discussion.
Now, I understand, Bill. Are you a fan or did you write Golden Glory? It's an AD&D
Or I
2e.
no, I did not write anything to do with AD&D. I wrote a game called Glory Road Roleplay.
Oh, Glory Hole. My bad. Sorry, I'm too immersed in
And
the OSR. And
talk about no, my feelings about the OSR are they aren't doing anything very original. They're just writing about D&D. And that's an
we can debate
unkind
that
thing to
next
say.
podcast.
That's an unkind thing to say, but I really feel that the stories they tell are original, but they're just playing D&D, and I have the same problem with D&D when they run it as when Gygax wrote it.
I'm glad to have
I
that
don't.
debate with you next podcast, and I'm sure everybody would tune in. But what
But
about the
anyway,
Glory
but
Road
my
RPG?
well,
Yeah, yeah.
the title thing really resonates with me because my title was used for a novel and for a film, and my game has nothing to do with the film at all. And the title, Virginia Heinlein said it was okay for me to use it because it's about the common road to glory that's common in adventure and picaresque literature. And her husband's novel was about that too. So I don't feel bad about using it, but it is confusing to people. And
They still remember the Heinlein novel in that? I mean, I'm not saying they forget Heinlein, but the
I
actual.
can't
lots of
forget
people,
Heinlein.
lots of people can ask me the title from the Heinlein novel, and I say not really, but there's a connection. If they ask me, is the title got anything to do with the movie? There's no connection at all. Although I like the movie, but the big break I had was I was sparring with someone. I went away for the summer. I came back and she'd gotten much better, and it was harder to hit her. And I said to myself, "What's this hit point thing? It's harder to hit her, and that's easy to model. You make it harder to hit her." And that's when I started running my own rules.
Sure.
And in fact, I would have named the rule after her, but I never remember her name. We called her Scout after the character in
Yeah.
To Kill a
To
Mockingbird,
Kill a
and that
Mockingbird.
wasn't her name. That wasn't her name. We just called her that. Um,
Huh.
and characters in my game get harder to hit, and my players found that more satisfying than getting more hit points. It was something easier
Was
to visualize for your character. It was
was
less
she a
abstract.
musician, by the way? Bill,
No,
was she a
no, she,
musician? Okay, I
no.
was wondering because musicians tend to get nicknames, so I just thought
I
maybe.
had one. I had one, but it was too long to use. It was not
Oh,
allowed to sing. Not allowed to sing. In fact, our lead singer gave me a harmonica and told me to use it because she didn't want me singing along at all ever. And I was living with her, and she was as mean as a cut snake. So I did what she said.
Mean at the cup snake. That's going in my
I like
playbook.
that.
And frankly, she was very hard to hit when we sparred because we were both. I hate the term martial artists, but we were both karatekas and sparred, and she was hard to hit. And little people are hard to hit, although you usually have reach on them. So
Yeah.
that was a big change. And armor slows you down, makes you easier to hit, not harder to hit. And I found my rules easier to visualize, and my players did too. But
Well,
I never,
one
I,
thing you
ne-
won't see
I,
me. Sorry. No, one thing you won't see me arguing is that you need to roll to hit, and that factor to hit is based like on dodging, dexterity, whatever, and then armor absorbs damage. Yeah, I agree with 100% that for an average person in the world, if they were introduced to RPG, that would be a way easier concept to absorb than armor class.
well, and I didn't publish. I didn't publish till 2017. And I'm not trying to get a big market share. I've found tons of people to play with, so many that I can't write my next project. I have a live game here in South Florida now, not big, and I have people from Texas and Bulgaria and even the United States to play with on my Discord server.
Jason, yeah. And yeah.
Yeah, and Ason's kid.
Yep. First daughter.
Yeah, that's the only name I know her by, and her character's name is Ruby. I know that. He said her name, but I don't remember it.
Okay.
But there were people running. We went to a con, X-Con in New Jersey. I forget the town. 92, and took physical copies of the game that a friend of mine printed out and sold them. And there were people running the game in England and Maine and in various parts of Connecticut. We were in touch with them, but I never published it until 2017, and then I put it on drive-through. I ran into, I don't review PDFs. And I got stubborn and I said, the hell with that. I'm not gonna do a print copy just to please these people, these egotistical people who think their reviews are a favor to me. I wrote reviews for newspapers, of books. You write the review for the audience. You don't write the review for the publisher or the author. I don't
Absolutely.
review books. I don't review PDFs or send me money. The hell with these people asking for money to write reviews of a book that I'm not making any money on and not trying to make any money on.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I mean, how
Absolutely.
you can trust their criticism? How you can trust their evaluation if they're getting paid to do the review?
That is
I
one of
don't
the
know.
biggest problems I have is trying to find feedback that's honest and tells me what I need to know.
There's a vow that everyone in the okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a vow that everyone seems to have taken, never to mention Glory Road Roleplay. C.J. Corrella's being interviewed. He's already a novelist. He stopped writing for games. And by the way, I love his novels, especially the ones that aren't about space marines. Those have made him a lot of money, so that's. But anyway, he's being interviewed. They're talking about what games he played. He's running a game of Glory Road Roleplay every week. He's playing in one every week. All he wants to talk about is GURPS. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I might have gotten some publicity, didn't. And now I'm not going to be able to write anymore because I got too much playing to do, and that's fine. That's paradise. I mean, I'm in the middle of writing.
Bill, I'm running 3 games every week. So, Starcluster games.
I'd love to play Starcluster sometime. I never play fantasy games other than mine because I don't have time, but I can make time to play an SF game.
Okay.
Of course, my experience with Traveler is we always became space pirates. And I don't know whether that was the game master or us.
Well, I gotta say, I admire you for getting your science fiction RPG, Starcluster out there. The thing is, I love science fiction. I've run a few Traveler games, and they were well received. And I have an original setting of my own, based around the premise is what if there was a dinosaurian civilization 65 million years ago expanded
Cool.
out that expanded outward and terraformed everything they could be terraformed within 1,000 light years. So
Mhm.
now humans has gone into the stars and finding all these worlds. Some are failed terraforming, regress, but there's still there's Earth-based colonies everywhere. Somewhere dinosaurs still rule. Somewhere they died out on those planets and birds are dinosaurs now, but birds, mammals, other genres are dominant. But the roadblock I always had is while I can do the world building, the adventures. I haven't quite got the knack of writing sci-fi adventures.
Mhm.
Showing what you could do with the setting is always been out of reach. Not like my fantasy campaign. Fantasy, I got it. I know. I can think of 1,000 variations of interesting variation. Just science fiction, I love it. Read it all the time. Actual adventures, I don't know, not there yet. But if I have something like a traveler where I can rely on existing based adventure, 76 Patreon, I can riff all that all day. But don't ask me to come up with my own 76 Patreons.
Well, I did a lot of well, a lot by my standards of modules for the first edition. Instead of modules, I've done these setting books, or actually
Mhm.
setting bundles on drive-through, and basically told the GMs on my game, and I'm in contact with a few. Here's the tools. Write your own damn adventures. Because
See, that's where I am. Absolutely. I'm all about the tools. I publish tool sets that go with my games.
mm-hmm.
And the
I
tool
mean,
sets are just things you can just plug in and use.
the modules I wrote were adventures I ran in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that many adventures that I've run in the second edition, and I'll have them in maybe 10 years, but I'm 80. So I'm not going to write modules anymore. Actually, I already violated that. I did write one module.
I
And
have
I
written
play I
Go
I have
ahead.
written traditional adventures, dungeon. Like there's one posted for free on my website called the Elf Lord's Temple. But what I like to publish are my Sandbox adventures. But the only issue is most Sandbox moments are in context of a larger campaign. It's hard to excise them, make them standalone. But that being said,
Absolutely.
I've been running them so long. It turns out I got a handful that I can write up, and I already wrote
Yeah.
up one that I need
Mm-hmm.
to publish the second edition because I got to set it in my majestic fantasy realm, not in the Waterland. And I have another one that's all place tested, and I got two more uh, that I'm in that are much rougher form. But yeah, I if I want to publish an adventure, I want it to be distinct. And Sandbox, since I'm the Sandbox guy, that's going to be my wheelhouse
Mm-hmm.
rather than just
well
making a bunch
all
of dungeon modules and site modules.
all, all my running has been sandbox. I
Mm-hmm.
just can I can like I have to sometimes change things to turn it into a module, but there's generally material for a module, but I've run out. You know, I'm running sandboxes and they don't always produce modules.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Absolutely.
the people I'm running for are delightful, and I could maybe yeah. One when Lawson's daughter was playing looks like it could be a module, but
Okay.
that would be the second module for my second edition if I ever publish it.
Seems the trick
Lots of fun.
is to find a situation that's somewhat self-contained, but still
Mm-hmm.
has enough possibility that there are many branches before the end. Before, if there is an
Hmm.
end, it's just many branches to resolve it. Could be any number of outcomes. Just
Yeah,
Basically, go
Yeah.
ahead, Frank. What?
I'm floating the floating extracting what my PCs are currently doing into a module, which if I can pull that off, it'll be it may be the first non-majestic fantasy system module for the majestic fantasy realms.
but
um, I sort of cooked up that I was looking at what was going on in the region that my campaign is, and I cooked up the idea that there's section of a bunch of orcs, and I haven't totally decided yet what is pushing them to raid more into the civilized territories, but that's sort of what's going on, and some PCs are off on their way to investigate that. In the meantime, they had yet another encounter with a very old, I think it's very old red dragon. What's the dragon, Dragonbone Hills? Do you remember, Rob?
What's that again?
The red dragon that's in the Dragonbone Hills, has his lair in the Dragonbone Hills.
Jeez. Well, I can look it up.
Yeah,
You wrote it.
It's 100,000 words. I am not going to have the goddamn thing memorized.
Pull your good dragon out of
Oh, that's right.
Well,
Oh, that's right. A print book isn't
It might be
searchable.
Skypeback.
yeah, that's it. I think that's
Skypeback, yeah. Arkador is the guy in the White Mountains who burned up the elves in the woods. Skypeback is in Blackmarsh.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I actually figured out the cold iron stats, and she burnt the party's pack horse to a crisp with a 22d6 flame breath.
I actually have the map on this monitor. I know the listeners can't see this, but yeah, I have it as a wallpaper on that monitor right there.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, so, and I do actually have a cold iron module posted. I took some map of a crypt and keyed it up with a bunch of cold iron undead. They just found out how nasty undead and cold iron can be. Asen's character lost his head to a white.
Ooh.
Now, if I remember correctly, most of your campaign is just taking place around the Osterbards and that peninsula to the east.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm releasing this huge project, and I'm not trying to say, but apparently, it's just interesting that you got so much mileage out of just that one letter size area that I originally published as Blackmarsh. And you don't even use the entirety of that map. It's just that one upper right quadrant, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they have been off the Blackmarsh map because they went to hold on, I got the map right here. Care Junglar is just
where the wizard.
Is just off the edge of the original Blackmarsh map. So they did make, and the campaign started out of Castle Black Oak, and they went into the Pendar Mountains. But one of the PCs was on the run from Blackmarsh, and they needed to go to a bigger town to sell their treasure and start buying some magic items. And so they decided, well, they couldn't go to Blackmarsh, and so they ended up picking Muncaster. And then they've been
Sorry to be
of
technically correct, but it's Muncaster.
Muncaster. Okay, sorry.
If you have a doubt how to pronounce it, just watch the Last Kingdom series. You'll learn how to pronounce Anglo-Saxon. The Amfort, Athelbert. Yeah, my friends tease
You-
me
you-
about all the Athels. You know, Athelstan, Athelbert, Athelwald, Athel. Well, there's a lot of Athels in Anglo-Saxon England.
Sorry. All I could think was, oh, there's a lot of assholes.
Yes. Yes, there
I got
are.
that one too. Yeah, let's not even start on the Eds. Edward, Edmund, Egbert.
Yes.
I guess it's 12:30, guys. East,
Yeah.
at least.
It's way later than I thought we were going to be doing this, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Let me
Yes,
tell you
it was
that.
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So we'll meet up again, I'm sure. But I got to get this done. I got to package it, put it into something. I've got to figure that out. I don't know how to do that yet, but I will. It's just a
Okay.
process.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you
I'll
guys when I
ask
get
my
ready.
friends who've done podcasts, any pro tips.
That would be absolutely marvelous because I have no clue. I'm just reading stuff and trying to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, great.
Now,
Thank
folks,
you
for
for
our next
hosting
trick,
the
we
class.
figure out how to stop the streaming so he can download the MP3 file.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Actually, I have it open on another window, so the Craig bot thing. So take care, everybody. See you later.
Yep.
See ya.
Be well.
Be well. Take
Bye
care.
now.
All right. I guess people are leaving, so good night.